In today's video, gents, the difference between quartz and automatic watches. So a quartz watch, by definition, is defined as having a movement that's powered by batteries, no winding required. Basically, the batteries inside send an electrical signal to a quartz crystal. This causes it to vibrate 32,768 times per second. They're then converted into a single pulse per second. The result? A very simple watch that is incredibly accurate. Now, mechanical watches, on the other hand, and I'm including automatics, they need to be manually wound, or they're going to use motion to actually automatically wind them. So this watch right here, I've got to go through and I've got to manually wind it once a day. Now, when I'm winding the watch, what I'm doing is I'm tightening a spring. That spring is going to power the watch from anywhere from maybe 24 hours to, in some cases, 10 days. Now, in an automatic watch, we can actually sometimes hear a rotor. And a rotor is basically going to be a device that turns around and uses your own motion when you're wearing the watch to actually automatically wind it. Again, for both types of watches here, we're putting tension on a mainspring. This mainspring creates a force that's transferred through a gear train to something called an escapement, which meters out power basically bit by bit. The math and engineering involved ensures the power is released in intervals that correspond with our concept of a 24-hour day. And gents, if you're looking for a quartz or automatic watch, you should check out Vincero, the paid sponsor of today's video. Vincero, whatever you want to say. This is a company founded by guys that love watches. Now, gents, if you haven't been over to their website for a while, you're going to want to check it out. They've got new collections, new watches, new looks. So first up, check out their Chrono collection. 316L surgical grade stainless steel. We've got a Citizen Moyota quartz movement. We've got sapphire coated mineral glass and a genuine Italian leather band. Next up, I want to talk about the Bellwether collection. This is one of my favorite collections. This, I think, is an incredibly beautiful watch. Comes in a wide variety of colors. You can change out the bands. Yes, the bands are actually, you can remove them right here. They're interchangeable. And let's not forget the Cairo series. This is a classic, simple, elegant looking watch. Guys, when you go through their website, you're going to see tons of different options, from colors of bands to the colors of the materials used on the case. And now go check out their women's collection. So gents, if you already own a Vincero, think about this. Now you can get a matching one for your spouse, for your wife, for your girlfriend. 16,000 5-star reviews, a 2-year warranty, a 30-day return policy, free worldwide shipping. Guys, I'm linking to Vincero down in the description. And gents, I almost forgot, but they're having their 5-year anniversary sale. So make sure to go check out the website. There are no exceptions. Everything is going to be on sale. They only do this once a year. So if you've ever considered grabbing a Vincero, now is the time. So first up, let's talk about heritage. The quartz watch has been around for less than 50 years, which if you think about it, it's pretty amazing because this has become the dominant watch on the market. Why? It was able to come in and really disrupt the whole market because of its accuracy and of its price. And by the way, I know some of you watch guys are going to go crazy because sometimes I use the word mechanical and automatic interchangeably. I know there is a difference. The point is, the mechanical watch has a much longer heritage. And that's why so many people love it. When we go back, we look at 1275. The English are credited with coming up with the first mechanical watch. In the 1540s, we saw the Swiss actually jump into the game. And the thing what we saw here is all of a sudden they started taking watchmaking and building these mechanical watches to a whole new level when they started looking at building them up as jewelry. And in the 1770s, we saw the rise of the pocket watch. Why? Because they actually developed the technology to a point that you didn't have to constantly wind the watch. You could simply keep it in your pocket and it would keep pretty accurate time. They were very expensive. They were all made by hand and it was very labor intensive. So the watches were kind of the plaything of the rich and those in a very high level position to be able to show off their wealth. That being said, the ability to track time was recognized very quickly by high level officials as actually something very valuable for people's workday. So it was eventually adopted as a tool. Now let's talk about craftsmanship. So quartz watches in general are going to be simpler than their mechanical brethren. In general, a quartz watch is going to consist of a quartz oscillating crystal, an electronic circuit to drive the watch, and a means of displaying time, and a battery to power the whole system. Here you're going to find a stem, circuit, coil, battery insulator, contact, battery strap, plate, train bridge, dial foot clamp, a case screw. Overall, when it comes to watchmaking, we're talking very few parts. And by the way, there are many advantages to actually being a simpler watch, but let's now talk about mechanical watches. These have, on average, from 1 130 to over 1,000 pieces. And gents, the vast majority of those parts, they're actually moving. So when you think about it, the complexity of that system is mind-blowing. Now let's talk about assembly. So putting together a quartz watch, because there's so few pieces, it's relatively quick and simple. When we go to mechanical watches, we're talking days, we're talking months, in some cases years, and that, gentlemen, directly affects the price. So let's talk cost. The movement inside a quartz watch can go anywhere, if you were just to buy that movement itself, for $5 to $100. The price is affected by the materials, who makes it, where do they make it, and all the complications that the movement's going to have to drive. Now, mechanical and automatic watches, on the other hand, can have movements that maybe only cost $50 to $75. Other automatic or mechanical watches can have movements that cost hundreds to thousands of dollars. In general, what you're going to see is for the same movement that's able to do basically the same thing, quartz watches are going to be a fraction of the price. Now, one of the most common questions out there is how, when I'm looking at a watch as a potential buyer, do I immediately tell if it's a quartz or a mechanical watch? So they should always be marked if you're looking to buy one. But if you look at the seconds hand, you can actually see when it's a quartz watch, it's going to have just a ticking movement, very distinctive, versus a sweeping hand on a mechanical watch. Now, the reason on a quartz watch that we see that movement every second is it's simply the most efficient way for the second hand to move versus if it were to move multiple times, which is actually happening on the mechanical watches. So mechanical watches, 5 times to 8 times a second, we're actually seeing really small ticks, and that's why it has that sweeping movement. Now, what about sound? Quartz watches, you're not going to hear anything. Some mechanical watches, you will actually be able to hear a ticking sound. So now let's talk about accuracy. This is where quartz watches shine. The cheapest quartz watch out there is going to be relatively accurate to 1 plus or minus second a day. Mechanical watches can have wide variations depending on a number of factors, such as the watch position. Is the dial up? Is the crown down? The susceptibility to gain seconds due to shock. So if basically you're out playing tennis, you can actually lose or gain a few seconds. The temperature, the state of the wind of the mainspring. Basically, if it's not fully wound consistently, you can actually have an inaccurate watch. Specifically, when we're talking about the accuracy of mechanical watch, all those factors I just talked about, plus actually what is the quality of the watch? Was it chronometer certified? If it's a high-end luxury watch, then you should expect about 2 to 3 seconds variation per day. But if it's just something that you bought very inexpensively, it's an older mechanical watch, you could sometimes see 12 to 15 seconds of variation per day. And what about durability? So quartz watches, because they have less parts in them, they're going to be, in general, less susceptible to shock damage. So if you're playing a lot of sports, a quartz watch is good versus a mechanical watch, especially a mechanical watch that has a lot of parts. Just think about that. You're playing golf, or if you bang it up against something, all of a sudden that watch can have just one small piece get ajar, and all of a sudden you have a watch that doesn't tell time accurately or stops working. And let's talk about maintenance. Quartz watches, incredibly easy. Every 2 to 5 years when the battery dies, simply change out the battery. Occasionally, you may have a mechanical issue. You can send it in to get it fixed. Now, gents, when it comes to mechanical watches and maintenance, this is where it can become a nightmare. So it depends on who you talk with. Some watchmakers are going to say, okay, every 3 years, you've got to get that watch in for maintenance because the oils break down, and it's something that a little bit of preventative maintenance is going to really prevent something bad from happening at some point in the future. On the other side, and I have to admit, I'm with these other guys over here, is I will send it in when it stops working. Whenever we've got some issues, you can expect, if you've had a watch for 15, 20 years that's been running strong, you can expect something is going to happen at some point. Now, what about case style and type? Actually, with both quartz and mechanical watches, you have a wide range, but quartz watches do have a big advantage on the case, and that is actually the thickness of the case. So quartz watches, they can be incredibly thin because they just simply don't have all the mechanical parts you need for a mechanical watch. That being said, a good looking mechanical watch will oftentimes have a clear case back in which you can actually see the inside workings of the watch. So gents, what side are you on? Quartz, mechanical, or automatic? Let me know down in the comments. So what video to watch next? Guys, check out this one right here, the chronograph. I talk about the history, how they work. If you are into watches, you are going to absolutely love this video. Go check it out, guys. I will also link to it down in the description.